Your dog has been studying you. Every single day. Since the moment they met you. Not in the way you think. Not sitting quietly waiting for commands. But actively, cataloging your voice, your breathing, your body language, the exact way your pace changes when something is wrong. Building a psychological profile of you so detailed, so precise, that they often know your emotional state before you do. And tonight, we're going to talk about what's actually inside your dog's mind when you speak to them. Because the science, the real neuroscience, is nothing like what most people assume. And if you have a dog at home right now, I promise you, by the end of this video you will never look at them the same way again. I'm going to show you 7 findings. Each one builds on the last. Do not skip ahead, because point 5 genuinely shocked the researchers who discovered it, and point 7 is the answer to a question you've probably never thought to ask. If you're new here, hit subscribe right now. We go deep into the science of what your dog is really thinking, feeling, and experiencing. You are going to want every video we put out. Now let's go. Before we can understand what your dog thinks when you talk to them, we need to completely rebuild how you picture their reality. Because their reality is constructed on a fundamentally different sensory architecture than yours. Humans are visual creatures. We map the world through what we see. Dogs are different. Dogs are primarily acoustic and olfactory beings. Sound and smell are the pillars of their world. And the gap between what they hear and what we hear is staggering. Both species can detect sound starting around 20 Hz. That's the low end. But while your hearing tops out around 20,000 Hz, a dog can hear up to 65,000 Hz. An entire frequency range that is completely invisible to you. The high-pitched squeal of a bicycle brake half a block away. The ultrasonic hum of a TV on standby. The exact moment your car engine changes pitch as you turn onto your street, before you even get close. And their ears are not passive receivers. They are active instruments. Dogs have 18 or more muscles controlling each ear independently. They can swivel, tilt, and rotate each ear like a satellite dish, triangulating the precise origin of a sound with extraordinary accuracy. This is not a cute quirk. This is tens of thousands of years of evolution as hunters and pack animals, where sound literally meant survival. So when you sit down and start talking to your dog, they are not just politely listening. They are scanning. They are processing a massive volume of acoustic information that you can't even detect. But here is the part that changes everything. Research published in Science Journal showed that dogs process human speech in a remarkably similar way to us. They use the left hemisphere to process the actual words, the lexical content, and the right hemisphere to process the emotional tone and intonation. Exactly like we do. Think about what that means. Your dog is simultaneously doing 2 separate things. Analyzing what you said and analyzing how you said it. No other non-human species has been confirmed to do this. There is a brain architecture inside your dog specifically designed to decode human communication. And that raises a fascinating question. If they're processing both the words and the emotion separately, which one matters more? Hold on to that. Because the answer comes next. Let's start with a number. Dogs can learn to recognize and respond to over 165 individual words and gestures, according to research by Dr. Stanley Coren. Some border collies have documented vocabularies exceeding 1,000 words. One dog, named Chaser, studied at Wofford College, could not only identify objects by name, she could categorize them by function. She understood that certain words referred to a class of things, not just a single object. That is conceptual thinking. But here is what most dog owners completely miss. The majority of dogs are not primarily listening to your words. They are listening to something far more intimate, the emotional fingerprint of your voice. Your voice has a unique acoustic signature. It's not just your accent or your pitch. It's the rhythm of your sentences. The way your pace slows when you're exhausted. The specific quality your voice gets when you're genuinely happy versus when you're performing happiness for someone else. The almost imperceptible tightness in your tone when you're stressed. Your dog reads all of this. Constantly. Automatically. And with extraordinary accuracy. They build what we might call an emotional voice map, a long-term archive stored in associative memory, where your voice is cross-referenced with everything that happened while you used it. The warmth in your voice when you said good boy after they came back to you. The calm in your voice on evening walks. The particular tone you use at bedtime. All of it is filed together. Your voice becomes the emotional anchor of their entire world. And here's where neuroscience gets genuinely remarkable. In a study at Lorand University in Hungary, researchers used brain imaging to show that dogs respond differently to familiar versus unfamiliar voices. Not just differently, the reward centers in their brains showed higher activation when they heard their owner's voice compared to a stranger's. Your voice is neurologically registered as a reward. Every time you speak to your dog, you are chemically reinforcing a bond that is written into their brain. You are, without knowing it, one of the most powerful emotional forces in your dog's life. But recognizing your voice is only the beginning. What they do with that recognition is where things get truly extraordinary. Scientists have a term for the musical, emotional quality of speech. The rhythm, the intonation, the rises and falls of your voice independent of the actual words. It's called prosody. And research confirms that dogs are exceptional decoders of human prosody. Possibly the best non-human decoders on the planet. Think about how you instinctively speak to a baby, a puppy, or someone you deeply love. Your pitch rises slightly. Your rhythm becomes slower, smoother, more melodic. This is called infant-directed speech. And across virtually every human culture, it is the universal acoustic signal for safety, warmth, and positive connection. Dogs respond to this powerfully and instinctively. When you use this tone, their stress hormones decrease. Their heart rate lowers. They become more likely to approach, make eye contact, and engage. Conversely, a sudden, sharp, low tone triggers an immediate threat response in the canine nervous system. It resembles the acoustic signature of a growl, of danger. This is why harsh tones cause dogs to shrink back even when the actual words are positive. You could say, "You're the most incredible dog in the world," in a cold, tight voice, and your dog will lower their head and move away. But whisper, "Hey you silly goofball," with genuine warmth, and they will wag their entire body and press their nose into your hand. They are not evaluating your grammar. They are evaluating your soul. And what makes this even more astonishing? Dogs don't just react to your voice in the moment. They actively monitor your emotional state across time. Research from the University of Lincoln showed that dogs can distinguish between happy and angry human faces, between fearful and calm expressions, between a dozen combinations of tone and body language. They are building a live emotional model of you, updated in real time, every moment they spend in your presence. This means when you're anxious, your dog knows before you've said a single word. Your body language has already shifted. Your breathing has changed. The rhythm of your movement is different. And because your well-being is directly linked to their sense of security, they respond. They press closer. They bring you something. They sit and watch you with an intensity that feels almost human. You are their anchor. And when the anchor moves, they feel every tremor. This conversation is not a monologue. While you are talking, your dog is answering you constantly, in a language most people never learn to read. Let's start with the head tilt. Researchers at the University of Budapest found that dogs who knew more words performed the head tilt more consistently when they heard meaningful words versus random sounds. That tilt is not random cuteness. It may be a physical adjustment, repositioning the ear canals to better isolate specific sound frequencies. When your dog tilts their head, they are working to understand you. They are leaning in. They are choosing you. Then there is eye contact. In the animal kingdom, a sustained direct stare is almost universally a threat display. But dogs evolved something extraordinary. They became one of the only non-primate animals to actively seek eye contact with another species as a form of bonding. And when you hold eye contact with your dog, something chemical happens. Both of your bodies release oxytocin, the same bonding hormone released between human mothers and their newborns. A study in Science confirmed this mutual gaze loop. The longer the eye contact, the more oxytocin released, in both of you. Your dog is chemically bonding with you every single time they look into your eyes. Then there is the tail, an emotional broadcast tower most humans only half read. Research shows dogs tend to wag more toward the right when they see someone they love, and more toward the left when they encounter something threatening. The direction of that wag is a specific emotional signal, if you know how to look. And finally, the lean. When your dog presses their full body weight into your leg while you're talking, that is not passive proximity. That is participation. That is presence as answer. They are sealing the conversation with their entire body. They are not sitting quietly doing nothing. They are talking back, in a frequency most humans never tune into. There is an old stereotype about dogs, that their emotional responsiveness is just conditioned behavior. A learned performance of attachment because it gets them fed and sheltered. That what looks like empathy is really just a very effective survival strategy. This is wrong. And the science is now undeniable. Over roughly 15,000 years of coevolution with humans, dogs underwent selective pressure unlike anything seen in any other domestication process. The animals that thrived were not the strongest or the fastest. They were the ones best able to read, respond to, and connect with human emotional states. Emotional intelligence became a survival advantage. It was literally bred into them across hundreds of generations. In 2012, a study by Dr. Deborah Custance and Jennifer Mayer at Goldsmiths University of London found that dogs responded to a crying stranger, not their owner, a complete stranger, by approaching and offering comfort behaviors like nuzzling and physical contact. They were not responding to a familiar person. They were responding to the emotional signal of distress itself. That is the definition of empathy, responding to another being's emotional state independent of personal connection or expectation of reward. A subsequent study at the University of Vienna showed that dogs exposed to the scent of human fear, specific chemical compounds released in sweat during fear responses, showed significantly higher stress and anxiety themselves, and sought more comfort from their owners. They were not just detecting your emotion. They were absorbing it, entering your emotional state with you. This is called emotional contagion. And it is one of the foundational building blocks of empathy. Dogs do it across species boundaries, with people they've known for years, with complete strangers they've just met. When you're having a hard night and you sit on the floor and your dog presses their warm body against you, they are not performing. They are not calculating a social strategy. They are doing something ancient and genuine. They are choosing to share space with your pain. Because leaving a pack member who is suffering alone is, to them, simply not an option. It is contrary to everything they are. Their empathy is not loud or expressive. It is quiet, steady, and physical. A warm weight against your leg. A chin on your knee. Eyes that don't look away. And that kind of presence, the kind that simply stays, is one of the most profound forms of comfort that exists. Dogs are, at their emotional core, creatures of pattern. Their sense of security is built not primarily on rules or commands, but on predictability. On the reliable repetition of events that confirm, this is how the world works. And it is safe. Think about the rhythms of your dog's day. The morning walk, preceded by the specific sounds of your alarm, your feet on the floor, the jingle of the leash. The feeding time bracketed by the sound of a cabinet opening. The evening shift in your voice as the day releases its tension. The smell of you settling in. These are not just events. They are the pillars of your dog's psychological world. Each one is a data point that confirms, my pack is intact. I am safe. And your voice, the sound of it, the emotional texture of it at each moment in these rituals, is woven into every single one. When you say good morning in that particular half-asleep tone, you are not just greeting them. You are activating a memory-emotion complex that reaches back through every good morning that ever came before it. You are reminding their nervous system, this is real. This is consistent. This is home. Research on separation anxiety reveals something heartbreaking and illuminating. Dogs with severe separation anxiety don't just miss your presence. They miss the entire rhythmic structure of their day. They experience your absence not as a gap, but as a collapse. The architecture falls. The soundtrack goes silent. And when your key turns in the lock, when your voice comes through the door, that is not just reunion. That is reconstruction. The world rebuilding itself around the sound of you. The spinning. The vocalizing. The full-body celebration that looks almost frantic. That is not just excitement. That is relief at a neurological level. The pattern has been restored. The rhythm is back. The pack is whole. You are not just a person to your dog. You are the organizing principle of their reality. We've covered the neuroscience of how they process your words. The chemistry of how your voice activates their reward centers. The evolutionary history that made emotional attunement a survival skill. The empathy research that confirms they genuinely feel your pain. And the ritual architecture that makes your voice the sound of safety itself. So now, what are they actually thinking? Here is the honest answer. Dogs do not think in sentences. They don't construct verbal narratives or run internal monologues. Their experience of the world is almost certainly more immediate, more sensory, more emotional than ours, less abstract, more present, more purely felt. But that does not mean nothing is happening. When you lean close to them and speak softly, what is likely generating in that mind? If we could translate it, approximate something like, this is the voice. The good voice. Everything is fine. I am safe. When you come home after a long day and say their name with that warmth you only use for them, what registers in that brain is closer to, the pack is back. The rhythm is restored. And when you're crying on the floor and they press their warm body against your side, they are likely not thinking anything analyzable. They are feeling your distress like a shift in air pressure. And something in them, something that 15,000 years of evolution spent refining, responds the only way it knows how. With proximity. With warmth. With the steady, unwavering message. You are not alone. The conversation you have with your dog is not happening in language. It is happening in frequency. In the emotional wavelength you share when you are fully present with each other. You voice soft and honest, leaning toward them. Every available sensor aimed in your direction, reading you completely, answering with everything they have. Maybe that is why humans have always described the bond with dogs as something different from any other relationship. Not because dogs speak our language, they don't, but because they speak something older and more fundamental. The language of pure presence, of complete attention, of love that requires no explanation. When you talk to your dog, they are not confused or indifferent. They are listening with everything they are. They just answer in a register most people never learn to hear. Now here's what comes next, and I genuinely think this is the video you didn't know you needed. We just covered what's happening inside your dog's mind when you speak. But what is your dog communicating back to you when you're not paying attention? The things they do when they think no one is watching. The behaviors most owners completely misread. The signals that, once you see them, you cannot unsee. That is the next video. And if this one surprised you, that one will change the way you live with your dog. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you have a dog, go find them right now and just sit with them for a minute. You understand them a little better now. And I think they'll feel the difference. See you in the next one.